let's travel back to the 17th century, to a world of caravans and sultans. Meet Zara, a fierce and independent desert nomad, known for her unmatched knowledge of the stars and her unbreakable spirit. She's a guardian of the old ways, entrusted with the secrets of the desert passed down through generations. Zara believes deeply in the legend of the oasis, not as a fairy tale, but as a sacred truth. She has spent her life preparing for the prophecy, guided by ancient scrolls that foretell the arrival of a stranger from another time. She feels a pull she can't explain, a deep certainty that her fate is intertwined with this mysterious visitor. As the 100th year approaches and the amber moon begins to rise, she makes her way to the oasis, her heart filled with both hope and apprehension, ready to meet the man written in her stars. Two people from two different worlds, on a collision course with destiny. The moment they meet is nothing short of magical. As Eris stumbles upon the shimmering waters of the oasis, convinced it's a hallucination, he sees her. Zara stands by the spring, looking exactly as the ancient text described, yet more real and captivating than any legend. For Eris, it's impossible. For Zara, it's destiny fulfilled. The connection between them is instant, a spark that ignites a love so profound it feels like they've then known each other for 1,000 lifetimes. But their time is short. With only 7 days, every moment is precious. They share stories of their different worlds. He tells her of metal birds that fly in the sky, and she shows him how to navigate by the stars. But as their love deepens, the looming deadline casts a shadow over their perfect world. Can their love truly conquer time? Or are they destined to be just a beautiful, fleeting memory in the sands of the Sahara? Stick around. Our story begins in 1924, in the golden age of desert exploration. The sun hangs low over the Moroccan Sahara, painting the endless dunes in shifting shades of amber and gold. Here, amidst the whispering wains, is where we meet Dr. Amara Nasri, a brilliant young archaeologist from Cairo. She stands at the edge of a newly discovered ruin, her weathered journals and maps spread across ancient stones. At just 28, she's already dedicated her entire life to uncovering the mysteries of lost civilizations. Her colleagues back in the city may call her obsessed, but Amara simply sees herself as determined. The desert heat shimmers around her as she gently brushes sand from a carved stone tablet. The symbols are unlike anything she's ever seen before. They're not hieroglyphs, not cuneiform. They are intricate circular patterns that seem to shimmer, almost moving when she's not looking directly at them. She murmurs to herself, lost in thought, these markings, they're not just decorative. They're a map. But a map to what? The question hangs in the dry air, unanswered. As the sun begins its final descent, casting long, dramatic shadows across the dunes, something extraordinary happens. The dying light hits the tablet at a precise, almost magical angle. Suddenly, the strange symbols glow with an otherworldly luminescence, a soft, ethereal light that seems to pulse with a life of its own. They project a faint beam, pointing toward the horizon, toward a place marked on none of her meticulously researched maps. Every instinct, every rule of desert safety she has ever learned, screams at her to stay put, to wait for morning. But an inexplicable pull, a deep-seated curiosity she can't ignore, compels her forward. Against her better judgment, Amara packs a small satchel and follows the light. She walks for hours through the cooling sands, guided only by the glowing tablet and an inexplicable tugging in her chest, a feeling of heading toward a long-lost home. Just as exhaustion begins to claim her, as her legs ache and her resolve wavers, she crests a massive dune. She stops, and a gasp escapes her lips. Below her, nestled between the golden sands, lies an oasis that shouldn't exist. It's a vibrant splash of impossible green in the barren landscape. Lush palm trees sway gently around crystal-clear pools, fed by springs that bubble up from some impossible, hidden depth. It's a miracle. But that's not what steals her breath away. There, standing at the water's edge, as if he's been waiting for centuries, is a man. His name is Khalil, and he's dressed in clothes from another era entirely. Flowing robes that seem to belong to the medieval period, ornate yet weathered by time, drape his frame. His eyes, dark as a moonless midnight, walk onto hers. There's a look of recognition in them, a profound familiarity that defies all logic and explanation. He smiles, a gentle, knowing smile. "You came," he says, his voice a soft melody on the desert wind. "After all this time, you finally came." Amara is stunned into silence, her mind racing to make sense of the scene before her. I don't understand," she stammers, taking a hesitant step back. "Who are you? How did you know I would be here?" Khalil steps closer, his movements graceful and unhurried. "Because I've been waiting for you," he explained simply. "For 100 years, I've been waiting. And you've been searching for me just as long, even if you didn't know it." Fear should be her first reaction. Every rational thought tells her to turn and run from this impossible man in this impossible place. But instead, she feels an overwhelming sense of homecoming, a profound peace settling over her. It's as if every step of her life, every dig, every ancient text she's studied has led her directly to this moment. "I know you have questions," Khalil continues, his voice gentle. "I know none of this makes sense. But the moon is rising, and we have only 7 nights. 7 nights to remember everything we were, everything we are, and everything we could be." Amara shakes her head, trying to cling to logic. "This is impossible. You can't have been waiting 100 years. You're no older than I am." A sad smile touches Halil's lips. "In this place, between the ticking of the world's clock, time moves differently. This oasis exists outside the normal flow of hours and days. Here I wait. And every century, when the stars align just as they do now, the one I'm meant to find can enter this sacred space." He extends his hand to her, a simple, open invitation. Despite every logical argument screaming in her mind, every fiber of her being tells her to trust him. She takes his hand. The moment their fingers touch, a flood of memories crashes over her. They are memories that aren't hers, yet they feel more real, more visceral than her own life. She sees herself in different times, different places. A priestess in ancient Egypt, her hands tracing sacred texts. A poet in medieval Baghdad, her words weaving tales of love and loss. A merchant's daughter in Renaissance Venice, gazing at the canals from a stone balcony. And in each life, there's him. Always him, the same dark, knowing eyes. The same soul-deep recognition that she feels at this very moment. The connection is undeniable, electric. "I've seen you before," she whispers, breathless. "In my dreams, in the margins of my research. In shadows and starlight, I thought I was going mad." "Not mad," Khalil says softly, his thumb tracing a pattern on her hand. "Just remembering. Our souls have been dancing around each other for millennia, Amara. Each time we meet, we have 7 days. 7 perfect days before the world pulls us back into the stream of time, and we must wait another century to find each other again." The weight of his words settles on her. A century of waiting. A lifetime of searching. But why? She asks, her voice trembling. "Why are we cursed this way?" "Not cursed," he corrects her gently. "Blessed. We loved so deeply, so completely in our first life, that when death tried to separate us, our love refused to end. The universe itself bent to honor that devotion. We are given these moments, these precious days, as a gift. A chance to love each other again and again for all eternity." As the amber moon rises high over the dunes, casting a silvery glow on the oasis, Khalil leads Amara to its heart. Here, ancient stones form a perfect circle around a pool of water, so still it looks like a sheet of black glass. The stars reflect on its surface like a field of scattered diamonds. Each night, Khalil explains, his voice resonating in the quiet air, The water will show us one of our past lives together. Each day, we will have to choose whether to try and break the cycle or to embrace it. 7 days, 7 choices. He turns to face her, his expression serious, his eyes full of a love that has spanned ages. At the end, you must decide. Do you want to remain in your time, in the life you know, and forget all of this? Or will you join me in this eternal dance, knowing that each meeting is both a blessing and a goodbye? Amara looks at this impossible man, this stranger who feels more familiar than anyone she has ever known. She feels the truth of his words resonating in her very bones. She finally understands. Her whole life, every dig, every discovery, every lonely night spent dreaming of something just beyond her reach, it has all been leading to this one monumental choice. Her obsession with the past was never about ancient ruins. It was about him. She was always searching for him. She takes a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Her path is clear. Show me, she says, her voice steady and sure. Show me our first life together. Khalil smiles, a radiant, beautiful smile. He turns to the pool and touches the water. Its mirror-like surface begins to shimmer, to ripple, and from its depths a new light begins to glow, ready to reveal the beginning. Over the next 3 days and nights, Amara and Khalil explored their shared history, each revelation pulling them closer as the countdown to their separation ticked relentlessly onward. On the first day, the water's surface shimmered, revealing their earliest life together, nearly 4,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. Amara watched, mesmerized, as she saw herself as Ashara, a priestess devoted to the goddess Inanna. And there was Khalil as Enki, a scribe from a rival city-state. Their love was forbidden. His people and hers were at war. But that didn't stop them. They met in secret, in the lush gardens that lay between their warring cities, sharing poetry and dreams beneath the Mesopotamian stars. They whispered plans of running away together, of finding a new home where their love wouldn't be seen as an act of treason. But they were discovered. The priest-kings of both cities, enraged by their betrayal, ordered their execution. It was to be a public spectacle, a grim warning to anyone else who might dare to place love above loyalty. As they stood together, facing their imminent deaths, they refused to let their story end. They made a solemn vow, not just to each other, but to the goddess Inanna herself. Their love, they declared, would not end with death. They would find each other again, no matter what life came next. The goddess Inanna, who knew the depths of love and passion, was moved by their unwavering devotion. She granted their wish, but attached a condition, a divine clause to their eternal contract. They would indeed meet again and again across the vast expanse of time. But these meetings would be fleeting, lasting only for brief, intense moments. Their love would be eternal, yet never fully realized, never complete. It would be a constant, beautiful, aching yearning. This, Inanna declared, would be both their blessing and their test. The vision faded from the water. Amara pulled back, her voice trembling. We curse it ourselves, she whispered. Our own vow? It created this endless cycle. Khalil looked at her, his eyes holding the wisdom of ages. Or we blessed ourselves, he countered gently. How many people can say they've loved across millennia? That their connection survived the fall of empires, the rise and fall of civilizations, the very turning of ages? But it's torture too, isn't it? Amara argued, the pain of 1,000 partings in her voice. Always meeting, always leaving. Never having a full lifetime together. Perhaps, Khalil admitted. But I wouldn't trade these moments for anything. Would you? Would you rather have lived your whole life never knowing this feeling? Never knowing that you are part of something so much greater than yourself? Amara had no answer. The weight of his question hung in the air between them. Instead, she looked at him, her heart aching for more. She asked Khalil to tell her about the other times. The other lives, the other brief, beautiful moments scattered like stars across the centuries. And so he began to speak of their shared past, painting pictures of their love against the backdrop of history, a story whispered from one lifetime to the next. What an incredible, tragic, and beautiful beginning to their story. The idea of a love so powerful it defies time itself, but at such a cost, it's just breathtaking. What do you think? Would you choose the next day we walked through the oasis, hand in hand? Khalil's voice was a warm current in the desert air as he told me stories of our past reunions, painting vivid pictures of lives I couldn't quite grasp, yet felt deep in my bones. He spoke of medieval Spain, a time when I was a Muslim scholar and he, a Christian knight. We met during a brief, fragile truce, our worlds colliding in a shared thirst for knowledge. Under the Andalusian sun, we taught each other our languages, our philosophies, discovering that our souls spoke the same tongue, even if our people did not. Then he whisked me away to Renaissance Italy. I was a painter's apprentice, my hands perpetually stained with charcoal and pigment. He was a merchant, his eyes holding the mysteries of faraway lands. For 7 precious days, by the flickering glow of lamplight, we didn't just talk. We captured each other on parchment, sketching portraits, trying to memorize every line, every shadow of the faces we knew we would have to forget. With each story he told, a strange weight settled in my chest. It wasn't a burden, but a profound sense of depth, of history. It was the weight of all those lives, all those loves, pressing down on me, and I realized with a sudden, breathtaking clarity that a part of me, buried deep in the bedrock of my soul, remembered. The dreams that had haunted me my entire life, the fleeting images of unfamiliar places and a familiar face, they weren't just dreams. They were echoes. Echoes of these very encounters, calling to me across the vast expanse of time. I looked at him, the dust of the ancient oasis swirling around our feet, and the words tumbled out. In this life, I became an archaeologist. I spent my entire career searching for lost civilizations, for forgotten histories, but now I think I was really searching for you, for this. A soft smile touched his lips, but his eyes held the patience of 100 lonely years. And I waited, he said. For a century, right here, in this place, I did nothing but prepare. I studied, I read. I learned every language you might speak, mastered every custom you might have. I did it all so that when you finally arrived, we wouldn't waste a single precious moment of our 7 days on misunderstanding. The number 7 hung in the air between us, a beautiful, terrible countdown. My heart clenched. What happens to you when I leave? When the 7 days end? His gaze drifted towards the horizon, his voice growing heavy with the truth of his existence. I returned to waiting. The oasis keeps me suspended. I don't age. I don't need food or water. I simply exist, watching the stars turn, counting down the years until you can return. He looked back at me, his expression softening with a sad tenderness. And you'll go back to your time, to 1924, and you will have a choice. Remember or forget, forget. The word felt like a betrayal on my tongue. I could forget all of this, forget him. It's a mercy, he explained gently, an honest gift. If the weight of these meetings, the memory of our goodbyes, becomes too much, if you want to live a normal life, unburdened by a love you can only hold for a week each century, you can choose to forget. Most of the time, that's what you do. You go back to your world, and within days, this all fades, becoming nothing more than a strange, beautiful dream. You live your life, you die, and you are reborn. Then, a century later, something calls you back to the desert, and we begin again. A question burned within me, a desperate hope against a tide of sorrow. On the third night, the air was thick with unspoken words. I woke from a restless sleep and found Khalil by the edge of the pool, his silhouette a dark shape against the shimmering water. He was just sitting there, staring into its depths as if searching for answers in the ripples. I walked over and sat beside him, my hand finding his in the cool night air. "What are you thinking about?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't look at me, his gaze still fixed on the water. "About the choice you'll have to make," he said softly. "And about the choice I made a long, long time ago. The choice to stay here, to be the one who waits and remembers while you live and forget." The words hung between us, heavy and profound. I tried to understand. Why did you choose that? Why didn't you choose to be reborn too? He finally turned to me, his eyes dark and ancient. "Because someone has to remember, Amara. Someone has to be the keeper of our story. If we both forgot, we might never find each other again. The thread that connects us would be broken. So I chose to be the anchor, the constant, the one who holds our history safe until you return." A wave of sorrow washed over me. "That's not fair to you," I said, the injustice of it all stinging my eyes. A century of waiting over and over just for 7 days. Khalil's hand came up to cup my face, his touch gentle, almost reverent. 7 days with you is worth 1,000 years of waiting. His voice was so full of conviction, it stole my breath. "Don't you see? You are my purpose, my joy, my everything. These brief moments of reunion are what give my existence meaning. I would wait 10,000 years if it meant I could see your smile, hear your laugh, hold your hand, just like this." Tears streamed on my face, then hot and unstoppable. The sheer scale of his love, the depth of his sacrifice, it was too much to comprehend. It filled every part of me until I thought I would break. "I want to remember this time," I sobbed, clutching his hand tighter. "When I go back, I don't want to forget you." Khalil's expression grew serious, his gaze searching mine. "Be certain, Amara. Remembering means living with the loss every single day. It means knowing what you had and can't have again for another century. It means dying with that yearning in your heart, carrying it into whatever life comes next. Most people can't bear that weight." I met his gaze, my resolve hardening. "I can bear anything except not knowing you, not knowing this love. I want to remember." We spent the rest of that night talking, sharing everything we could. We tried to condense entire lifetimes into a few precious hours. Khalil told me about the countless books he'd read in his centuries of solitude, the stars he'd named in the lonely night sky, the songs he'd composed, all for me. I told him about my life, my childhood in Cairo, my passion for history and lost things, never realizing that the greatest lost thing of all was my own memory of him. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of rose and gold, a sobering realization settled over us. Our time was already halfway gone. 3 days had passed and only 4 remained. Time moves differently in the oasis, but it still moves. Each sunrise brings them closer to the inevitable separation, and Amara must confront the choice that will define not just this life, but all her lives to come. On the 4th day, Amara begins to feel the pull of her own world. Her colleagues will have noticed her absence by now. They'll be searching for her. Her work, her career, her entire life exists beyond this impossible oasis. "I have responsibilities out there," she says, her voice tight with a conflict she can no longer ignore. "People who depend on me. Research that could change our understanding of ancient civilizations." Khalil's gaze is steady, filled with an ancient, unwavering love. "I know," he says softly. "I would never ask you to abandon your life, your calling. That's part of who you are, part of what I love about you. In every life, you've been someone who seeks truth, who uncovers hidden things." Amara's heart aches. It feels as if it's being torn in two. But how can I go back to that life knowing you're here? How can I care about pottery shards and hieroglyphics when I've touched eternity itself? The words are a desperate plea, a cry for an answer she doesn't believe exists. "Because that work matters too," Khalil insists gently, taking her hands in his. His touch is a warm anchor in the storm of her emotions. Because the world needs people like you, people who remember the past, who teach us where we came from. You can hold both truths, that your work is important and that this love is real. Tears well in her eyes, blurring the perfect lines of his face. A single tear escapes and traces a path down her cheek. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that, she whispers, her voice breaking. It feels like an impossible burden to live a normal life while carrying the memory of a love that transcends time itself. Khalil's thumb gently wipes the tear away. His eyes are filled with a fierce, absolute belief in her. You are, he says, his voice a low, resonant rumble that seems to vibrate through her very soul. You've always been the stronger one. I wait, but you live. You take the risk of forgetting, of loss, of pain. You're the bravest person I've ever known. His words hang in the air, a profound truth that settles deep within her. He sees a strength in her that she has never seen in herself. He sees her as the adventurer, the one who braves the unknown world again and again, while he remains the constant, the guardian of their shared past. In this moment, surrounded by the timeless beauty of the oasis, Amara begins to understand that leaving isn't an act of abandonment, but an act of courage. It is the role she was always meant to play in their eternal story. The choice is still agonizing, but a fragile sense of purpose begins to bloom in her heart, nurtured by his unshakable faith in her. She looks at him, truly looks at him, and sees not just the man she loves in this moment, but the soul who has believed in her across 1,000 lifetimes. And for the first time, the day dawned not with sunlight, but with a wall of swirling sand. The air grew thick and heavy, the sky turning a bruised ochre. A sandstorm, Khalil had explained, was rare for the oasis, a place usually shielded from the desert's fury, but not impossible. As the wind howled a mournful song outside their small stone shelter, the world outside was erased, leaving only the two of them, cocooned in the heart of the tempest. The flickering lamplight cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, making the small space feel both intimate and infinite. It was in this strange, suspended moment that Khalil finally began to speak of the things Amara had longed to understand. He told her of the intricate mechanics of their shared fate, this curse that was also a blessing. He described the invisible threads of magic that wove the oasis together, the ancient power that tethered him to this place and, in turn, pulled her back to him time and time again. He explained the rules, the cosmic laws that governed their fleeting reunions. It wasn't random. It was a cycle, precise and unyielding, a celestial clockwork that measured their time in stolen moments across centuries. Amara listened, her heart a heavy stone in her chest, absorbing every word. The storm outside was a physical manifestation of the chaos she felt within, each gust of wind a question tearing at her soul. Then Khalil's voice dropped, becoming a low, hesitant whisper that was almost lost in the roar of the wind. He looked at her, his ancient eyes filled with a pain so profound it seemed to contain all the loneliness of his long existence. There is one way, he said, his words barely audible. One way to break the cycle. One way for us to be together permanently. But it comes at a cost so high that I've never dared suggest it. The air in the room grew still, the howl of the storm seeming to quiet in anticipation. Amara's breath caught in her throat. After all this time, all the partings, all the desperate yearning, was there a choice? Tell me, she urged, her voice a plea. Khalil held her gaze, and in his eyes she saw the weight of 1,000 years of solitude. If you chose to stay here with me, he began, his voice laced with a fragile hope, to remain in the oasis as I do, we could be together always. No more separations, no more waiting. The words hung in the air, a beautiful, impossible dream. But you would give up everything else. Your life, your work, your place in the world. You would exist outside of time, unchanging, watching the centuries pass like dreams. A gilded cage, Amara thought. Eternal love, but at the cost of her very self, her connection to the vibrant, moving, living world she knew. A counter-proposal formed on her lips, a desperate grasp for another way. And if you left with me, could you do that? She saw the answer in his eyes before he even spoke, the flicker of hope extinguished as quickly as it had appeared. He shook his head slowly, a gesture of deep, unending sorrow. I could try, he admitted, but the magic that sustains me here, the very essence that keeps me as I am, doesn't extend beyond the oasis. The moment I stepped past its boundaries, I would catch up to all the time I've missed. Centuries would crash down on me at once. I would age, decay, become dust in moments. The image was horrifying, a rapid, violent unraveling of the man she loved. He would crumble before her very eyes, a lifetime lived and lost in the span of a single breath. The finality of it was like a physical blow, so we can never truly be together. Amara stated it not as a question, but as a devastating realization. Not really. The dream shattered, leaving only the sharp, painful edges of their reality. Khalil reached out, his hand covering hers. His touch was warm, solid, a stark contrast to the ghostly future he had just described. Not in the way most people are together, he conceded gently. But maybe what we have is even more precious because of its rarity. Maybe the impermanence is what makes it perfect. Amara pulled her hand away, a fire igniting in her chest. I don't believe that. Her voice was firm, laced with a new and unfamiliar anger. I refuse to believe that our love is somehow better because we can't have it fully. That it's a beautiful tragedy? No, it's just a tragedy. A silence fell between them, heavier than before. Khalil's expression was one of quiet resignation. Then what do you want to do? He asked, his voice soft, but the question was a thunderclap in the small room. Amara had no answer. There was no good choice, only varying degrees of loss. Outside, the storm raged on, its fury a perfect mirror for the turmoil that tore through her heart, leaving her lost and directionless in the eye of her own personal tempest. The sixth day dawned clear and beautiful, and I knew our time was almost up. Tomorrow, the 7 days would end, and I'd have to make my final choice, remember or forget. Either way, I had to return to my world. We spent the day in a peaceful, companionable silence, just being together. We swam in the crystal pools, lay beneath the rustling palm trees, and watched the shimmering play of light on water. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic declarations, just the profound comfort of presence, of simple togetherness. It was a day etched in quiet perfection. As evening fell and the sky began to bleed into shades of orange and purple, I finally spoke the truth that had been growing in my heart. I don't want to break the cycle, I told him, my voice soft but certain. I don't want to stay here forever or force you to leave, but I do want to remember every moment, every touch, every word. I want to carry this with me, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts, because the pain will remind me that this was real. Khalil looked at me, his ancient eyes filled with a deep understanding. It will be hard, he said gently. Knowing what you know, living an ordinary life. Poof. You'll look at other couples and think about what we have. You'll look at the moon and think of me. A small smile touched my lips. Good. I want to think of you. I want to live my life with the knowledge that love like this exists. Maybe I'll find ways to seek you in the years between. Maybe I'll leave clues for myself, writings that will call to my future self, bringing me back to the desert again and again. He held my gaze, his next question hanging heavy in the air. And if you die before we can meet again? The thought was a sharp pang, but my answer was immediate. Then I'll find you in the next life. Maybe not here, maybe not at the oasis, but somewhere. Because now that I know you, truly know you, I'll recognize you anywhere. In any form, in any time. He pulled me close then, wrapping his arms around me as we watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the dunes in fiery gold. It was the sunset on our 6th day together. Tomorrow, Khalil whispered against my hair, when the amber moon rises, the 7 days will end. The oasis will release you back to your time, back to your world. Before you go, there's something I want to give you. He reached into his robes and pulled out a small, cool object. My breath caught in my throat. It was a carved stone pendant, identical to the tablet that had first led me here. I've been carrying this for 1,000 years, he explained. It's a key, a compass, a promise. It will always point you back to this place, back to me. And it will help you remember if you choose to. Wear it close to your heart. I took the pendant, its weight a comforting anchor in my palm. I'll wear it always, I promised, my voice thick with emotion. And Khalil? In my time, in my work, I'm going to find a way to share our story. Not directly, people wouldn't believe it. But through my research, through the myths and legends I uncover, I'll preserve the truth that love can transcend time itself. He nodded, a single perfect tear tracing a path down his cheek as the first star of evening appeared in the velvet sky. Our final night had begun. And so, we come to the 7th day, the final hours of this reunion. Every ending holds the seed of a new beginning, but that knowledge doesn't make the goodbye any easier. Dawn breaks on the 7th day. Amara wakes, the weight of their last moments together settling in her heart. She and Khalil don't speak much. What is there to say that hasn't already been said? Instead, they simply exist together, savoring each breath, each shared silence, each heartbeat that echoes the others. Tell me about your dreams for your life, Khalil says softly, breaking the stillness. The work you want to do, the places you want to see. Let me carry those visions with me during the long wait. Amara's eyes light up with a quiet fire. I want to publish my findings about the ancient civilizations of the Sahara. I want to prove that great societies thrived here, societies that history has forgotten. I want to show the world that the desert isn't empty, it's full of stories, full of secrets, full of love. She pauses, her fingers finding the familiar coolness of the pendant at her throat. And every day, in every way I can, I'll honor what we have. I'll live fully, love deeply, and remember that every moment is precious. I learned that from you, that 7 days of true connection is worth more than a lifetime of half-lived existence. A gentle smile touches Khalil's lips. You've given me something too, you know? Every time we meet, you remind me why I wait. You remind me that hope isn't foolish, that love isn't naive. You remind me that the best things in life are worth any sacrifice. As the sky deepens from orange to indigo, the amber moon begins to rise, casting an ethereal glow over the oasis. The air starts to hum and shimmer, a sound like distant chimes filling the space around them. Amara feels a gentle but insistent pull in her chest. Her time here is ending. A tremor of fear runs through her. I'm scared, she whispers. What if I forget, despite wanting so desperately to remember? What if, when I'm back in my world, all of this just fades away like a dream? Khalil takes her hands, his gaze steady and reassuring. Then we'll find each other again in 100 years. And again, 100 years after that. We'll keep meeting, keep loving, for as long as the stars turn in the sky. That's our promise, our vow, our truth. Will you wait for me? Her voice is barely audible. He smiles, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. I've been waiting for you since before time had a name. I'll wait for you until the last grain of sand in this desert settles into stillness. I'll wait for you forever, Amara, because you are worth every single moment. They embrace one final time, holding each other tight as the magic of the oasis swirls around them. The world seems to blur and shift, the very fabric of time bending to honor their love. Until we meet again, my eternal love, Khalil whispers into her hair. Until the next turning of the century brings you back to me. Until we meet again, she breathes back. And when we do, I promise I'll remember. I'll remember every word, every touch, every moment. This I swear. The amber moon reaches its zenith. Whoa. The amber moon reaches. In a blinding flash of golden light, Amara finds herself standing in the cool desert night alone. The oasis is gone, vanished as if it had never existed. Only the pendant resting against her skin and the overwhelming certainty in her heart prove that it was all real. She looks up at the vast, star-dusted sky, and she swears she can hear his voice carried on the wind, a promise echoing through eternity. Until we meet Amara again. Nasri, a young, ambitious archaeologist, finds herself. She wasn't just lost in a sandstorm. She stumbled upon a miracle. An ancient city, alive and vibrant, ruled by a man with eyes as old as the dunes and a love for her that had already waited centuries. He shows her a world of impossible beauty, a civilization built on devotion, not gold. He gives her a pendant, a piece of glowing amber, a promise that their connection will never fade, but Amara belongs to another time. With a heavy heart, she must leave. He makes her promise to forget, to protect the secret of the oasis, and to protect her own heart from a longing that could break it. She agrees, and as she steps back into her own time, the memories of the amber moon and the man who waits beneath it fade into a dream. Dr. Amara Nasri returns to her expedition, claiming she had gotten lost in a sandstorm. Her colleagues accepted her explanation, though they noticed something different about her, a new depth in her eyes, a quiet joy that hadn't been there before. She went on to become one of the most celebrated archaeologists of her generation. Her work on ancient desert civilizations changed the field forever. And in every paper she published, every lecture she gave, there was an underlying theme that love, connection, and devotion are the true treasures of the past, worth more than all the gold and jewels ever buried beneath the sands. She wore the pendant every day until she died peacefully at the age of 83, holding it close to her heart. Her last words, whispered to a nurse who didn't understand, were simple. I remembered. Tell him I remembered. And in an oasis that exists between moments, a man who has waited for centuries smiles, because he knows. He always knows. The amber moon will rise again in 97 years. And when it does, two souls will find each other once more, drawn together across the impossible distance of time itself, because some loves are eternal. Some loves transcend death, transcend time, transcend every boundary the universe can create. Some loves are written in the sands and the desert never forgets. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the sands of love. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the power of eternal love. And remember, somewhere in some impossible place between time and space, your own timeless connection might be waiting. Until next time, may you find your own oasis in the desert of life.